Gala oros chadashim einen noldim v'nimshachim ela al yedei tzimtzum v'silika or. Now later on, this is going to be called Mayim Nukvid, and it's a concept in prayer too. Kikei mitzide be'erik anpin shat samsem netzach hod yisod shalo. So let's look at Erik Anpin. Erik Anpin is let's say that's the line or because we know that it's a Rosh Tov Sof. That it is in a bodily form, but let's say that Erik Anpin is at Silus. So he says, Ki Kain Matzina be'Erik Anpin Shetzamsem Netzachod Yisod Shalo. So he does that. They la'afka l'zun in order to bring light down to zun keniska b'makoma that we will see in Shari Yivurim Perigim. We see also, therefore, in Erik Anpin that there's going to be a tzimtzum. Once again, Erik Anpin is let's say, the bodily image of Olam Atzilus. And this is the reason why. For that, Kipel ha'arech Anpin as hanai shalo. And so this is something we're going to learn later. But he's saying it. A lot of times they're dropping in, different ideas for later on. He says, Kipel, what doubles over Erik Anpin, his nai, that is net, so that's his legs and his middle organ. Shalo lamala al chagat. He folds it up on top of the chagat, of his chagat. So let's think like this, is that Erik Anpin is a Chabad chagat nai. So we know that the Chabad part, in general, is not covered over. In the case of Erik Anpin, actually, some of it is, because that's with the bina his bina is located in the neck area rather than in the head, which is going to be in the case of Zeir Anpin and Abba V'Iman like that. So he doubled over Erik Anpin his nai, lamala al chagat, and it folds it on top of his chagat, shalom. V'hine v'zeh nikrot tzimtzum, and this is called the tzimtzum. Why? Because the nai no longer has any lights in it. The lights are now up above, on top of the chagat. So all of the gestation of the way that Erik Anpin is created, or the process by it, has to do with the tzimtzum idea. Now they're calling that Iver. The Iver means what? Pregnancy, pregnancy, or an embryonic state, conception. I don't know if that's exactly the right word. Something comes out, a new zun, together with mochin, that means a penimios, the way that it's supposed to be. So once again, he's pointing out the concept of tzimtzum, or later we'll see that it's malaman, which is a whole concept in Kabbalah that we'll get to also.
The idea here is that pulling these iris back out, you create a space for the birth of something new, right? That's like the idea of what he's been saying.
No. That is true, but he's going to go into something else. What he's saying is that he's talking about the light. So if you want a new light, a light to come down to Zeir Anpin or to Malchus, the way that this is done is through the concept of Mayim Nukvin. What's Mayim Nukvin? It's really prayer in our sense, in the sense that we understand it, but it is taking all of the lower element and bringing it up to the upper element. When that happens, it causes a yichud to take place in the upper element. That yichud, just like any...
You're saying it's not about creating the empty space below, but it's about generating something above with a yichud.
It causes a yichud which brings light down below. I was just saying, like a matter. So this idea that's stated by the Sulam is that the word Kabbalah means the Ratzon L'Kabel. What is a Ratzon L'Kabel? It says that's where the word Kabbalah comes from. I asked a few people about this, and nobody really. What they say is like, Mesorah, or like that kind of idea. It's a Mesorah. But here he says what it is that when you're empty, you need light. And when your life, if you looked at it from a psychologist's point of view, is that when a person is in trouble in one way or another, whether it's his business or his family or anything, whatever it would be, he properly would seek guidance from God. Because he needs answers and he doesn't have it. So therefore, what do? If you're following this way, you will pray for it. Because the prayer is showing God the emptiness that you have. That's a little bit of this concept. But that's later on. Okay, it's later on we'll see that kind of thing. But here we're talking about, that's the concept of the tzimtzum. So the tzimtzum causes your prayers to be answered. That's basically what it is. And that takes place by Yichud, and we'll see that. Now, aren't we on number Yudalid? Okay,
yes.
Let me see if I can move my material here a little bit, because it's far away from me. Okay, there we go. So he says, number Yudalid. Yudalid says, V'chein choye bezecha ba'adam kadmon, ve'ein la'arech be'inyan zeh. Now, I don't want to talk about Adam Kadmon so much. V'chein gab Timsa shahoyat simsum benai the ak. So the same thing happens there, is that the nai the ak moves up to be above the tibur of ak, and shalosh sha'alo kala oraza benimius hanai the ak. Once again, that's the legs, sort of the bottom part of your body. The ak b'chagat, it comes up on top of the chagat, the ak. V'hoyat sorach tikun olam b'ratzilus, and this is necessary for later on, that we'll see that the Olam of Atzilus will come into being. So we see like that, Machat Simsum Shehoy Bepinimios Ak L'Tzorach Atzilus. So from that Simsum that took place there, Lo Ha'erik Bo HaRabba, the Rab doesn't really want to talk that much about Ak. He want to give you an idea such a thing exists, but to try to start figuring out what the physicality of Ak is, you want to do it. Ke'ein Ritzono L'Hanrech Be'inyaneh Pinimios Ak, moving on to number Tesvav. So he says, Tesvav, he says, so that there should be a difference between what's down below and what's up above. So this idea, let's say like in a human being, it would be your diaphragm, or where your rib cage, I don't know exactly how it works. I don't really know exactly. There is such a thing as a diaphragm. So that was the idea. Kan mivoyer harabba inyan ashlishi shehoye ba'ak ba'atzilus v'hoye shorsh l'olamos taktecha. Now when he says, he keeps saying ak ba'atzilus. So first we start with ak, and atzilus is taking place after akudim and after nekudim, and the creation of a tikkun over there, and that's atzilus. Why is he bringing in both? Because the process starts with ak. This is that ak is the template for everything that's going to happen after that. Which is really where we're at now. Parsa ma'atzil. B'silcha gufa, the ak so spreads, the ma'atzil spreads over the body of the ak. B'chitzach hanikbas parsa. So he's calling it by the word parsa. Shehi ka'ayin masach. It's a masach. It's a screen. Hamnavdil, which causes a division. Ha'omed be'emsech bein ha'chelek shalomala mechativa lebein ha'chelek shalamata mechativa. So we said that inside of ak there's going to be a tzimtzum, there'll be some evacuation down below, but then there's a parsa that keeps a parsa that keeps it from going back down. It makes a pressure changer there. So this causes that pressure changer up above, a lot of pressurized, that some of the parsa, he didn't say some, he says that the parsa will be broken through. Commotion mevorach harav l'cholam. So he said, Vahu sod, and we have a pasuk here, Yehi rakia b'silcha mayim, let there be this firmament in the middle of the mayim. V'yehi mavdil bein mayim l'mayim. That's interesting that the metaphor here is mayim. Talk about or, mayim, okay. Keniska v'sefer Zohar is mentioned over there. Is kruma, so over there the language is a kruma, but imsos moi the barnash, inside of the, let's say the intestinal area or the digested area of a person. The ihu psak mitata the pasik, that's it, mitata the elif from the bottom to the top. So it draws shefa from up above and spreads it down below. So what's he talking about here? So that was the concept that he says that there is some bleeding that's going to come back. It's got some of this light in the pressure cooker is going to come back down. So that's not our big subject, but that's what he said. So let's go on. So this is now a hint or an allusion al krum, to this crust or this hebdel, which is there. Which would be, say, for example, the lathe and the reya and the shehem iger ha'adam, lebein ha'avarim, the limbs, shatachteichem shehem b'nei ha'ma'ayim, which are the digestive organ of the kli ha'echol, etc. Anam ena parsim ma'akeves es or shalo yehe bev sharuso klau l'redis lamata. So I'm looking at what is the importance of this idea, because we're really starting to want to talk about what generates the light that come out of the eyes of Ak.
Right.
But over here he wants to also talk about the light that leaks down, I call it leaking now, down to the lower part. Ella matras haparsa, what's the purpose of this parsa? Hulishov matmina or shalomala, is to draw down a little bit of the light that's up above. L'haknisa matmat, little by little, the socha kalim shalamata that are in the kalim down below. K'fi sheyesh b'kochom lisbol, according to their ability to be able to take the light. You can't bring too much light down there. It wouldn't be the same function. V'inyan aparsa nisker b'divir harizal, ala posav asisa ma'aka l'gagecho, shehu inyan haparsa. That whole subject there is also the inyan of this parsa. Shena'asev bein atzilus l'bria. So now he's saying a new idea. He's another idea. Once again, we don't really know that much about atzilus. We don't know anything or very much at all about bria. But he said the same thing exists between atzilus and bria. B'kedei, why? Shelo yiplo ha'oros atzilus, which are very, very powerful negative lights, and other lights of nothingness to a certain extent. They would overwhelm bria if they came out in full force. So there wouldn't be a bria. So he said, Lamata al olam bria. But Tevis gagecha, what does that mean? Ola misbar. So there's more to that zohar. I didn't look it up. So there's more to that zohar over there that finishes out what the gematria is, a gematria of 36. So a communion shem bavaya shem b'menun asa parsa. So you just skipped a little bit. There's a little bit of that pasuk. But the idea is that the gagecha is supposed to give you the idea of a parsa. Number Yud Zion says, "V'az nishar kola or la'ela mehai parsa." So now you see that all of the light is up above. V'hoyisham dachok u'mahudak. So everything was really pressured and pushed. V'az baka ha'or ha'hu parsa. Then it breaks through the parts. Parsa. Okay, I keep saying parsa because it's not about pizza. It's about the word parsa. If I keep getting like that. Baka hahu parsa v'yared, and it goes down v'hayir shar haguf, and it illuminates the rest of the body. Minatibur lamata. V'zehi bechinas parsa. Now we understand what this parsa is all about. And his keres b'reish idra rabba. So idra rabba is a piece of the zohar which is considered to be one of the deepest parts of the zohar. B'drush ve'elu hamalachim, and a drush which is called elu hamalachim. So I just give you a little taste of this because I'm learning these kind of things all the time. I spent several years really learning the Idris. And the Idris is like the Rav, that is Rashbi, the Rashbi, writes a few sentences that are really very difficult, very, very mysterious sentences. So but just by reading them by themselves, it would be very difficult to understand what he's talking about. But then we have Meforshim, so the people from LURIA, well, that's what we're, that's the sefer, this farm that we're working on. They come and they give you an explanation. So that's what it takes. There's a lot there. So Kevin Shahor Shakoya Lamatach and Nisalu Lamala Bechetzio Elnia the Ox, and the light is now up above the Tibur of Ak. Hayasham Dachel the Badu. Did I read this already? So I guess I'm reading it. It's actually just quoting what's up above. So in the higher pressure, v'zeh garm shaha'or shalamala baku as parsa v'yard b'ksasim a little bit lamata. V'lahalon yisbor sha'aliyas ha'oras garm the yached shemos av and sag. Hanimsoin lamala min parsa. Let's go over this again. Later on, we're going to explain this. That when this light comes up, it's coming up. It causes, and this is a general rule everywhere in Atzilus and Bria and every universe, is that this again the concept of Mayim Nukvin, that when the light comes from the bottom to the top, it causes a yichud up above. And that yichud, you could say practically speaking, is to bring the light back down below. But maybe perhaps the light that it's going to bring is too strong for what's down below, so therefore it has to have other outlets or other kind of things that are going to go on to be mitzamsim that light. So Yisbor Sha'aliyas Ha'oras Garm the Yichud the Yached, two names which are called the Av and the Sag. Hanimsoy Lamalam and the Parsa. Later they're going to be called the Av Sag the Ak. That's what they are. From this is the Yichud that creates new light. And miyachdam miyuchudam noiled or chadash, and from that now you have new light. V'zechav or yored lamata goes downward. Gasher hu yigil the parsa when it reaches the parsa, baka also it breaks out through it. V'yored lamata v'heyer as spheros shlish teferes v'netzach hod v'yisod. We'll go over that in a second. The ak. So he says that v'kasher hu higil the parsa. So when it reaches there, what happens? Breaks through it. It goes down below, and it shines into actually 4 places. Now we already had the concept of netzachod yisod, which is the 9, but he threw in here also the lower part of Tiferes, which because the Tibor is actually in Tiferes. It's not yisod; it's up above it. So we're going to see that this Tiferes is going to be divided up in different ways at different times. This is the first time we're going to see this. But the main part of the light that went up above the Tibor, Nishar Sham, Tamid, Lamala, remains there forever up above. As we should say over this is what we think we see in the Zohar. The Ischad Parsa ben Amatzel leKeser, there is a parsa between the Ma'atzel, which is the force that is bringing the light downwards, leKeser. So in other words, something beyond Keser. What Keser is he talking about? He must be talking about the Keser of Atzilus. Right. Let's see if that's what he's doing.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. V'zoki bechinas haparsach hanizkeret b'zohar hakodesh be'idirabbah. So he sheish haparsach hamapsekes bein hama'atzel lebein hakeser. Berusha shezecha beparsach hamapsekes bein hamalchus da'akudim ha'omed ha'malav ha'tibor. So that there's the malchus of akudim. So right, that's the very top. Bottom part of the Akudim, Melis the Malam Tibor, which is standing up above the Tibor, the Bein HaKesed in the Akudim, that's where we're talking about, the Omen the Matam Tibor. So there's a parsa there. And the Kemet should call Olam Nikrach Ma'atzel. So we have a principle. He says that every mushpa, every not mushpa, mashpia, what is it right? Mashpia, everyone that's giving. Olam and Nikra Ma'atzel be'erika Olam Shalamata b'bena. So it's like pouring into it. V'lefichav af amalchus v'akudim Nikra b'shem Ma'atzel be'erika kesed the Nikudim. Did you hear this? Understand that?
I think so.
Okay, good. So that's basically we could use. He could use words any way he wants to. The Rav can. So he said that the Ma'atzel means the original cause of the light to come down. Anam emeshu, the kama goltim is the list lahu chushbana. There are many. I think this is a golem. Is the list lahu chushbana. There's so many of them. Keniska bereisha idrin. I'm not so sure what he's talking about yet. V'hakeser shel zer anpen. Let's talk about zer anpen. So we have a little bit of zer anpen idea. He's for the Tibur Lamata. Zer anpen. Yihya parsa shal ima mapsek elov. There will be a parsa of ima that's going to interrupt between them, or separate them. Became kiyotze bezesa. We'll see like that. Aval a keser shal kol atzilus. A keser of any place in atzilus. Who nipsak al yedei chad parsa. It always has a parsa over it in some way. Shalzeha Adam Kadmon. That is the parsa that comes from Adam Kadmon. Let's see if we get a little better explanation of some of this. Kevin Shekavarn is Boyer in the parsa of the Ak. So since we've already explained the parsa of Ak, everything is this is a what I say like it's a template for what's going to come. It's not only there. Which is a bia. It's Bria Yitzir and Asiya. Shalatzilus Bria Yitzir, he says it. Sha'ondim zeh al gab zeh, that they are standing. You could look at them. That's not necessarily true. There could be one inside of the next. But that's also, you could look at them as one on top of the next. So that gives you a flow pattern about, an idea of something coming from the top to the bottom. So he said, kamin binyan sheyesh bo arba aliyos zula malabazeh. It's like a building with staircases. Bein olam lo yesh mechitzach a parsa mabdela. So there's going to be some block there, and I guess he's trying to explain to us how it is that the light gets filtered in this way, because the masach is a filter. V'lo zu bilvad shal parsa mapsekes bein olamos. So it's not just this, that the parts of divides the olamos. Ella af besoch kol olam bepratusa, but not only that, but also in between, in every olam. Yesh parsa mapseket being parts of the parts of. So if you're talking, there's always going to be a parts of separation. V'partsufa nekroim gulgoltim. So that he wants to say that they're called gulgoltim. The gulgoltim is lashon, circular, something like circular. So how does that work? V'partsufa nekroim gulgoltim. Why? The haida roshim lepartsufim rabim shatachtechem. They become. Let's sort of kind of read that idea. It said become that gulgoltim means here. I said it wrong. So gulgoltim here means skulls or heads. So he said v'partsim nekroim gulgoltim. The haida rishon roshim lepartsufim rabim shatachtechem. So the parts of above is always going to have a parsa. Parsa, bein partsuf lepartsuf, kagon bein keser deza, the bein oris de ima, amnam yesh kilev bein bechidas a parsa anim solos with pratos olamos. So the inside of the olamos themselves, they're going to be parsos, bein parts of the partsuf, the bein a parsa aniskeres beparkim. So beparkim, I guess he means in what we're talking about here. Shehia parsa shal klalos called olam atzilus, which is the concept of the klalos of kol olam atzilus. Being parts of the parsa, yesh parsa al keser shalo. There's a parts of over its keser. V'zech parsa shehi al klalos atzilus nifrasa b'soch gufa the ak. All of this is inside of the body of ak. V'hi parsa amaskeres b'zohar. That's the parsa that the Zohar is talking about. This parsa of
although there's a lot of them, and it sounds like at every level there's multiple of them, but the one that he's referring to is the one all the way up at the top.
Okay, so so there is a top. There is a top and there is a bottom. And he says that this is the parsa is really to separate. Let's say like this, is that let's take the Olam Hanikudim, and we know something about that. So the Olam Hanikudim is at the bottom sphera of the one kli is going to be the malchus of that sphera, and it is full of a very powerful light, and that light has to be diminished, and in order to do that, a parsa is between that light and the next olam. That's one thing, and then in the olamos, that's what he said. You have the same thing within them. So l'tzorach olam ha'atzilus atzma. Lo choyet tzorach b'shtei ha'pa'ulos. It didn't need two different actions. Shehem ha'alalas ha'or uprises ha'parsa. Two different things. One is...
Did you read the dark text of Chaf?
I forgot. V'amam vadai she'al yedei histalkus ha'or le'elam ha'tibor haya maspik l'shiyeh yecholos ba'olam asila l'kabel ha'or shalahem. So, as a result of this action, that the light goes up, we're talking about Atzilus now, he says that the light goes up, there's going to be an ability for the Olam Atzilus to be able to receive that light, the light that's up above them. But if it's minimizing the light that's in Atzilus, it doesn't have, I think that's the way I'm understanding it, he says it doesn't have the ability to be able to also spread it. So therefore we add something else onto it. To place a parsa there. Now, let me see what he means by that. Which are what? Shehem ha'alos ha'or of a priestess a parsa. So this is the problem. Again, the light is a light of nothing. So therefore, if it's going to spread down in its regular form, nothing will form. So therefore, this is also the combination of making solidity or congealing of light. So he said, Yimshach or meruba ala atzilus. So it'd be good enough like this. Ki kol or sha'olo lamala, eno chafetz the redis lamata, doesn't want to go back down. But he makes a parsa there for the purpose of the olam which are below it, or outside of it, depending how you look at it, pirush. Let's say it got a tremendous amount of this light of the Ein Sof. This bolus, or let's say, okay, it's able to handle this light. That's its silus. But it would not be able to go into Bria because that light is just too strong for an outer world, which is Bria. As ko gadol v'zak. So look, he says or gadol, but also he says zak. So zak means that it's almost not there. It's very transparent. So what's he going to do? Like you want to give to your kids, like that. So then he made a division in some way. He made what? He made a screen. That's a good word. A screen, or a filter. So that Atzilus instead will only get, now he's not talking about Bria, I thought he was talking about Bria, but he's talking about, he says they make there's a parsa over the top of Atzilus that doesn't let all that light in. Bria or Moed, so then the same process will take place down below, but it'll have less light to deal with. And to get it into an amount that it can handle it. So it comes out really that what you have here is you have two separate things. Let me see what I got here. 1 second. Two separate things. And he says, Simsam or Lamala Kadeshu Yuchel Ratzil the Kabel or Shalo. So we're going to be Mitzams in the light, so that the Tzilus, we're talking about Tzilus as an example. So that he'd be able to see that light, be able to handle that light. Ve'inyan aparsa hoya the shayuchul abriya the kabbalora. So it's the word. Let's see, the word tikkun. Tikkun this is the concept of the tikkun. At this time, he's talking about it's a tzimtzum, because we've had that from the very beginning. But it's actually the concept of tikkun also. What tikkun means, which let's say we translate as being fixing or repairing something, building something, but actually it means hismatas of the light, limiting the light, because the only way that something can be built is by making the light, this light, which we say again is a light of nothingness. It's a light of non-existence, as we understand it. So in order for existence to come into being, it has to be limited. It has to be, and therefore the light as it perceives, just imagine like there's this really, really powerful negative light up above Atzilus. There's a parsa, so it brings that it's mismayed, that light, and now it's like something different. It has more of a form to it, and as it goes into Bria, it'll get more in the form, and it goes into Yetzirah more until we get to Olam Asiya, where we are, where it's congealed tremendously by different kinds of filters, of many different kinds. So Nimsa Shal Ma'atzel Poil Shtei Pa'ulas. It does two different things. The Ma'atzel, once again, it's the force from up above, or the force, which I like the concept of the force from inside. One is Alas Ha'ora Shehoya L'Madara Min Atibur L'Mala Matibur, V'hu L'Tzorach Olam Atzilus. Two, Priestess Parsa B'Socha Guf Da'ak, putting also this Parsa inside of the Guf of the Ak, B'Makom Matibur, at the place of the Tibur. V'hu L'Tzorach Olam Abriya, and this for the purpose of making Olam Abriya. Now, let's just going over this one more time. He says, Priestess Parsa B'Tocha Guf. So he said in Ak, he set this up to Ak, B'Makom Matibur. Now, at the place of the Tibur is where the Olam Hanikudim is going to be built. So there's right there at that place, there's a parsa. V'hu l'tzorach olam abriya. Now, so again, relatively speaking, you could say this about Ak, you could say it about Atzilus. So he switched back and forth a little bit. So he went back, Amna bezera v'tavan sheyesh parsa nosefet bein olam atzilus v'bein olam abriya. On the one hand, that you have something that makes it possible for Olam Atzilus to recover the light, but also if you mitzamsem again, and you mitzaken it again, is mismayit the light again, you can make it possible for that light. And what's about this light? So did we talk about cold summer? We talk about Naranchi. We talked about Naranchi, that there are lights inside of lights. So the same thing is true of Kalim and Olamos. It is that there are Olamos inside of Olamos and Kalim inside of Kalim. In terms of the light itself is Or, but it's covered over by this phrase, which is called Cold Sama. Cold Sama means Kalim, Levushim, Slomim, Slomim, Mochim, and Oros. Meaning what? You read it backwards. Oros are inside of the Mochim, and the Mochim are inside of the Slomim. The Slomim are inside of the Levushim, and the Levushim are inside of the Kalim. So it's all of these things, all of these are different levels of Tzimtzumim of the light. The light, which is the highest the highest part of the light, that light is really unacceptable to anything below it. It just would wipe it out in a second. So he said, they're going on. Which is up above, where Olam Atzilus is going to develop again in that area. Bein Olam Atzilus the Olam Abriya. L'tzorach Olam Hanikudim, and that's because in that place we're going to build the Olam Hanikudim. Heyer HaMa'atzel B'kama Kama Oros, he shines lots of different kinds of lights in there. B'kam B'var Harav Gimel Oros. Let's talk about Gimel Oros. Well, that's what Oros is he talking about. He says the first one is Or of the Sag. So that's where we're at. We're in the Sag, which is going to develop the Nikudim. Sha'al Lamala V'yatza Derek Nikver Anayim goes up because you have this pressure cooker. It's going to push it up out of the eyes. Or Chodosh, then as a result of that, there's going to be a new light because it's going to contribute to a yichud of what we call the Av Sag Da'ak. Ki or Chodosh and Olam Meziva, he says it, Av Sag Da'ak. Im Av Aklali, with the whole Av, which is Av, once again, in this kind of cases, like say, would be Atzilus, or would be the more center part. Then, Ha'or Shal Sag D'Sag, Kashiyatza Derek Anayim, when they come out of the eyes. Now, we just postulated that is, in fact, what happens, is they come out of the eyes. De La'asos Kalim the Nikudim. And what's going to happen? This is what we're going to learn now. We're going to start learning this. The Nikudim Avril V'derek Achap. So as they come out of the eyes, right? The eyes of Ak, he's got a whole head there. And in that, although that head, there are an Ozen, Chot, and Peh. Each one of these has a different set of lights. So the lights, the more powerful of the lights is going to come out of the Ozen. And the second part would be the Chotem. And then out of the Peh would be the lesser light. But doesn't mean that they're very powerful lights of a place that's really, really deep inside of Ak, or outside of Ak, whatever. So the light now coming out of the eyes, so what they're going to do is what's going to happen. And this is a whole concept. I think you could probably find some places to look at this deeper. Now the eyes are able to look. Look as it says, histaklos anayim. Now I don't know how this works. The eyes are up at the top of above my nose, corresponding approximately to my ears. He says the word v'ayidei histaklus, as the eyes are able to look at the achap. And as they're looking at the achap, it's like they're passing by, they're flying in space. So the eyes, let's say about the eyes, right? The eyes have a vision component. So the vision can actually look a long way, can look way down. So imagine Ak is like a statue. And so out of it, the eyes of that statue are now coming the lights of the Sag. And as a result of that, they're able to look, that's what he said, they're able to look at the Achap of Ak. And when they do that, histaklos ha'inayim ba'achap, shavo min ha'achap orath l'sorah kelehem. So they're able to draw light down for the purpose of their kelim. Now, he hasn't talked about their kelim yet. So he says that, in other words, for building kelim. Called kli lefi madrigaso, each kli according to his level. And he's going to explain this. V'ofen sha'ivis ha'oras al yedei histaklus anayim, yesh bo pratim rabim kamo sheharab ma'arach lahalam b'perka. Now we're going to go into this. What happens as the light comes out of the eyes? And he's saying this light that comes out of the eyes, I'm not sure I really can think of a metaphor for this, how it really works. It's not the eyes themselves, but the eyes of the eyes, right? This is going past the ear, it's going past the nose, it's a light that's going up vision, some kind of a vision that can look at the light of the ears, the light of the nose, and the light of the mouth as it's moving downwards. So now we're going to explain, we're going to come into this, we have 4 minutes. So let's take the 4 minutes and let's read the top part. We'll just read the Rav. And so therefore we'll get, he says he calls this the zivug of the sag v'av klali. He wants to talk about the yichud that's going to take place in this higher up realm. B'hinei al yedei aliyas ha'or hazeh shebechetziu atachton l'mala v'chativu k'nizkar, az mizrabe or godol v'rab b'chetzeh elyon shalaguf. That's what we talked about now. Here's the first time that we see it actually written in the Rav. It has the power of female waters. Once again, the nature of the female, in Zohar, Kabbalah, the female is called the Nuk. There's different reasons for it, but it's euphemized, the word Nekeva into Nuk. There's different reasons, like I said.
Okay.
But this is an inyan of emptiness. Is that we understand that the Nuk without a man is just empty. Because what she needs is, what the Nuk needs is to be mashpia to what's down below her. She can't do that, she doesn't have children. That's in a human sense. The same thing over here. Mayim Nuk means female waters, as the waters of need. Once again, concept, ratzon lekabel. That she needs. Now that could be, it's not necessarily, refined to only females of the human species. It's for everybody. But this is the idea what Mayim Nukfin is, the feeling of emptiness, that you have to do something about it. So he says, brings 9 al-atamim, shal sag, which is the av the sag, shem oras chotim pek and niska, which is the lights of the ozon and the chotim and the pek and niska, the el, we'll get into it more. But Son Lomar, what he wants to say is like this: El Shroshim Hapanimium, to the inner roots, Shelahem Shehem Betocha Guf, which is inside of the body. Not sure what he means yet. V'lo ala oros hayotzem l'chutz derek hanikavim, and so he's talking about these lights that are coming out of the eyes. They're coming from the top place, and then there's also lights, though, which he probably will go into this. They come out of the pores. They come out of the other places. When you talk about, say, the fingernails, when you talk into that, the toenails, different kinds of things like that. He's going to bring that up. He says also you have a belly button, you have a tibor, and you have a pia'ama. You have all of these different places which are openings, but we're talking about Ak, not a human being, and we'll see how they work. So now we say this light, which is coming from the bottom to the top, and we'll see this again and again. So ha'olim, which are going up, nizdavgu shem av shebegugolta, there's an av at the very top of the, which is where the light of the Ein Sof comes in. Shel zeh ha'adam kadmon, goes all the way up to the top. In bechinas sag shabo, that is, there of av is an av da av, and there's a sag da av. So he makes the av da av make a yichud with the sag da av, or maybe they call it the av sag da av. Shabo shehem hashroshim el shal ozim, which are in fact the roots to the light that's going to come out of the ozim, or the chotem, or the peh, shehem tamim, which we've heard before are called the tamim. Now we're talking about the Nekudos stuff. And what happens as a result of any yichud? Any yichud produces a new light. And that light is coming from Lamala min hazivog hazeh. It comes from up above. It's called, and conversely, instead of Mayim Nukvin, it's called Mayim Dochrin, which teaches us something in a very deep way about the difference between men and female, male and female. That the male in Kabbalah, the Kabbalah side of the male is the giver.
Right.
And he is the Mayim Dochrim. So that's the answer. You had a question, you asked an answer, you asked for an answer, you didn't know. Comes back as Mayim Dochrim. V'yara derech ha-parsa, goes through the parsa, it goes through a tzimtzum, or it's mismayit, minativa lamata. And that's it. Okay, that was the shir today. We'll try to...
That's good.
Now this part...
I think that was very enlightening.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll see they're going to create Olam Hanikudim. Okay, that's where we're at. Have a wonderful day.
So much.
Okay, call tough. Yes.